to see the transcript of the Sikha, if that's what you're inclined to do.
Hearing it is enough. That's okay. It'll be hard.
Sorry?
Hearing it is going to be enough for me to have the
Oh,
paper.
okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's start. Okay, let's see what we have here. All right, video. Okay. Usually what happens is we get to a Yom Tif, and when we get to a Yom Tif, and then the rabbi gives a speech, gives a Dvar Torah, and then we hear about the day that we are in currently. But what we have a chance tonight is to learn about something that will be happening this Wednesday. This Wednesday, and then also will be something that will be happening this coming Sunday night and Monday morning. So it's a good chance to get ready. So instead of finding out what has already happened, and then it might cause us to feel bad that we didn't prepare adequately based on what we just learned. So now we have a chance to learn about what will be happening, and then we have a chance also to prepare. And besides, also the Sikha itself will be speaking about how to prepare and what was the preparations of the Yidden on the first time the Torah was given, Matan Torah in the desert. Okay, so let's start. In the third month, on that day, Bamidbar Sinai, the first day of the third month, meaning of Sivan, we came to Sinai. Then Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar, and the Yidden camped in front of on the foot of the mountain. So Zogn Chazal. So this is famous. As Bayim Hazeh, what does this mean on this day? Meint dem Tag von Rosh Chodesh. As in dem Tag von Rosh Chodesh Stivon, which is Chodesh HaShlishi, seinen Yidden angekommen zum Har Sinai. Okay. So das allein, was die Yidden seien zugekommen zum Har Sinai. So first of all, let's figure out how Rosh Chodesh Sivan is special. Because we just finished Pesach, and in Pesach we see during the Haggadah, we already mentioned what's special about this day. It's It's already something extraordinary. That just coming to Har Sinai itself and not getting the Torah would have already been enough. It would have already been extraordinary. While der etzem gefinnen sich neged ahar, because, like we'll see later on, the just standing by the foot of the mountain was already had by the Yidden Oifgetan on Ilu Nifla, was already something out of the ordinary by Yidden. The Chazal, like we already learned, and it's mentioned in Rashi already, is popularized by the song of Shlomi Dax, one of his most famous songs. Right? Vayichan Sham Yisrael, Ki Yishachad B'Lev Echad. Right? Al Yidei Zev, was Yidden haben Chayne gewen. Neged Ahor, seine sie gewonnen Ba'achtus Gemurah, Ki Yishachad B'Lev Echad. Because they encamped by the Rebbe actually defines it in a certain way to show that it was actually because the Yidden camped at the foot of the mountain of Sinai. So therefore, we ended up being one, not just one person, but also with one heart. Like the Rebbe will explain the difference between the two. So well, first the Rebbe is going to mention something that seems out of place with regards to this day. So the Gemara actually defines what actually happened those few days. the Yidden to Kabbalah Satira. How did Moshe Rabbeinu get us ready to receive the Torah? B'meshech Titek. So each day was something different. Von Zeir angekommen zum Har Sinai, from the first day, from Rosh Chodesh Sivan, when we actually ended up by Har Sinai. Okay, so we're there. So you would think, okay, we're there. We should get the Torah right away. We're already by where it's supposed to be. But no, Moshe Rabbeinu needs to get us ready. So each day was something different till the actual day of Matan Torah. So Beis Simon, Omer hu va'atem tilim amalachas kenim. So first he tells the Yidden on the second day of Sivan, see the next day, not Rosh Chodesh itself, but the next day. What does he say? That we are a kingdom of priests. We're not just like any other human being. So Gimel Sivan Mitzvah Bala. So then the third Sivan, Moshe Rabbeinu mentions to the Yidden that we can't touch the mountain. We have to be separate from the mountain. Dalit Sivan der Tzivui Ef Prisha. So Dalit Sivan, Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Yidden that the husband and wives cannot be together. Hey Sivan is given Banu Mizbeach v'Yikrav of Karban. Then Hey Sivan, the next day, see we're getting closer and closer to the carbon, to the Matan Torah. Now Moshe Rabbeinu builds a Mizbeach and gives the opportunity to Yikrav of Karban for everyone to give Karbanis. And then at that point, the Yidden actually says that, okay, we're ready to receive the Torah, Nasiv and Ishma. But then going back, see, we mentioned beforehand that the days started Beis Sivan, but before we already mentioned that we got the Rosh Chodesh. So Mashenkem Rosh Chodesh Sivan dem Tag, wenn sie seien angekommen zum Har Sinai, sagt die Gemara. So the Gemara says, he said absolutely no words. He said nothing. It seems kind of funny. Why? Because they were exhausted from the journey. Because we were exhausted from exerting ourselves. Aderech from the journey, but Moshe abgewart, so Moshe waited. Mit der Achonis zu Kabbalah Satira, he pushed it off bis dem Yom Shalach Reserv till Beis Sivan. So in Plug is das bequem nicht verstandig. So first of all, this is completely not understood. So was Chazal sagen. So Chazal already say, as Reis geindig from Mitzrayim is by Yidden gewen gewaltige Schuke zu Kabbalah Satira. The Yidden had such a pull, such a desire to get the Torah as soon as they left Mitzrayim, as soon as we left Mitzrayim. Bis as sie haben gezählt, verbliebene Heg bis Matan Torah. Till we started counting. And anyways, it's self-understood. So actually, first of all, the whole point of Surah Zayin is because the Yidden started counting. So then Hashem told the Yidden, okay, if you're already counting, let me make this mitzvah of Surah Zayin. And it's self-understood. We see in our own lives as was nennt es ist geworden der Tag von Kabbalah Satira, as größer ist bei sie geworden at die it's self-understood that you get closer to something that you're looking forward to, so you get even more excited. Now we finally get to Har Sinai, dem Ort, wo es wird gegeben werden, das Avade und Avade herausgerufen bei Yidden die starkste Gefillen von Schuke und Zipia zu Kabbalah Sateros, right? So even you push a polishing of getting closer and closer to Kabbalah Satera, you want it already. Right? So we already see in our own lives, it's natural for a human being as Bashasa Mensch starke Gaguim zu Azach, when we really are pulled, when we have a desire to get something, is by him demot nit teifes mocken die Vermatigkeit von sein Guf. It's not it doesn't even it doesn't even bother him of any of like being exhausted or anything like that of his body. As das soll ihm abhalten in sein Bemühung zu kriegen die Sache. For sure, it's not going to stop him from trying to get it. Befragt, wenn hat so ein Neuen zum bekommen das, was ist mistake, and especially when he's getting so close to what he's desiring, fehlt sicher nicht an die Vermarkterkeit von Guf. So for sure, he's not exhausted. He doesn't feel the exhaustion. Is Tamua. So getting back to what our question is, as eindig negede hor, so the Yidden finally get to Har Sinai. Noch de alle Wochen und Tag von Gaguim to Kabbalah Satira, right? They were already counting day by day. So obviously that means that they were counted. They really wanted to get the Torah. Soll sich Moshe Rabbeinu abhalten von zum Mechen sein die Yidden, so close there to the closer to Urcha. So now Moshe Rabbeinu is going to hold a day. Why? Because they're exhausted. We already know that. What on earth? Why would they ever be exhausted for such a thing? Und nochmal, and even more so, wie Chazal sein Medaik. He didn't even say any word. Hat sie kein ein Wort nicht gesagt. In dem allem Hachonitz zu Kabbalah Satira. He was quiet. Euch mit Zeit Yidden, and besides, from the Yidden's perspective, wie kommt es, als sie haben Masken gewähren, abzuruhen, sich und nicht gemeint bei Menschen, als soll sie losen Herren etwas, was the Chalapochas wegen Kabbalah Satira. And if the Yidden, how are the Yidden letting Moshe off from pushing them off for a day to get ready? At least for something, but completely no words and not even mentioning it, just having no conversation about it. Und befragt, als da ist nicht gewesen kein größer Tirche durch. And besides, so first of all, like we said, that even if it was exhausting, then if you're so engrossed in what you want, so you forget about being exhausted, especially when you get close to what you're looking for. But anyways, this wasn't anyways an exhaustion of a journey. It was algorithm sein a Sichos, like just to take off a day or something. First of all, von Refidim bis Har Sinai is nit king Anyways, it's not such a long journey from the other city from Refidim, right? If you look at on a map, let's say in Chumash Shmais, in the back of the Chumash, you'll see a picture, a map of where probably the different places were. If you look at the amount of space between Har Sinai and Refidim, it's not that much space. So it's not like they were so exhausted. So Beis, their etzem gain is it given verbunden mit kein Tirche Yiseder, and anyways, it wasn't so exhausting. It wasn't an exhausting journey. From Danana Kovid is doch gegangen Farais. Yeah, it was a flat land. Usually, when you go in a desert, there's hills and valleys and hills and valleys. So, and anyways, it would be anything stop, But with the Nanya Kovid, it made it a very comfortable walk. It was a straight path. It wasn't. There were no valleys or anything, or hills. And Gimel, anyways, Reish Chodesh Sivan it was either Sunday or maybe Tuesday, depending on if you what you think what. Right, there's a machlekes when what day of the month was Matan Torah. So depending on which side you are on, it's either Sunday or Monday, right? They anyways had a full resting on Shabbos, so they already rested the day before. So what on earth are we pushing off Rosh Chodesh? Is doch noch mehr Tmur. Verwos ist bei ihnen gewesen als auch größer Felicious. Also lieb dem sollen sie nicht sein, Mesugel zu können hören, Philo ein Wort. Then Kabbalah Satira. So what? They were so exhausted, really, that even one word about Kabbalah Satira would be too overwhelming for them. So base. So the Rebbe says that it's possible to say such an answer. That what mit Cholsha de Urcha. It wasn't the exhaustion of their body. It was mostly the spiritual exhaustion. It's had the ruchnius They were changing their own their spiritual psyche, the way they were living their lives and the way they were thinking and feeling, and right, all those changes in their being. So that was exhausting. Was die Yidden haben damals durchgemacht. So what was going on then? Guckt, wie es ist voran Alicha. So first of all, the Rebbe explains, what does this mean? What does this mean that you have um, that you have differences? You could have journeys, not just a physical journey, but also a spiritual journey. Punkt wie is voran Halicha Gashmis, bederich Mamokim Mamokim Gashmi. Also wie ist voran der Inyan von Halicha Ruchnis bederich HaRuchnis. What does this mean? I'm going in a spiritual journey. Der Onem geht von ein Matziv one he's on one level in Ruchnis. So a zweite Matziv Ruchnis. Valia oder Birida oder Beshina zu an anderen. Und das can sein beminished right? Someone could change the way they act or the where they are physically, so that would be a physical journey. But also it could be even in their own selves, but having a higher level of maturity is spiritually and things like that. So it would be both in, let's say, the way they feel in emotional state. It could also be in understanding. Someone could understand something more or on a higher level. So that would be a journey in their thought. And obviously this will also be affected by a change in their spiritual journey in Avodas Hashem. So that would show a chain that would be journey of a spiritual form. So getting back to our conversation. Die Masoyes, was jeden sein gegangen von Mitzrayim bis Sinai, sein Gewinn nicht nur Halicha Gashmis. So when we were going out of Mitzrayim, it wasn't just going from Mitzrayim to Sinai as a walk, as a physical move, a physical journey. It was also, the truth is, it was also and mostly a journey of spiritual proportions. Ashinui in the Matzav Haruchni von Yidin und an Aliyah B'Avedas Hashem. We were changing our spiritual makeup, and also we were working on ourselves and getting closer to Hashem. Und während als mehr nenter und mehr roi zu Kabbalah Satira. And all of this in order to get closer and more and more possibility. No, it's like more of a vessel for receiving the Torah. That it would make more sense that we should be able to and it would be possible for us to be on the level for receiving the Torah. There steht in Sfarim, so what does the Sfarim say? As Indid in Mitzrayim is an jeden gewinn beschulen im Mamte Sharituma. We are on the almost beyond repair. We were on the 49th level of impurity of the 50. When Yeder Tog is given, so now we go out of Mitzrayim. So every day we get from one sphere to the next, out of all of these 49 levels of impurity. Bis noch memtes aliyas. So then through these 49 aliyas, through going higher and higher, Zayin is alle geworden legamri zu sein, am machas kohenim kodesh b'man Torah. We were already a holy nation of priests, which was at the time of Matan Torah by Rosh Chodesh. This was basically the Ale Masois. So now we get all these in different journeys. Aliyas in Avodas Hashem, Ruchnistic Avodas Hashem journeys. So it was one an Aliyah Medarga Ledarga, right? Like we see in Sfiras Omer, we go from one level to the next. It's small changes. You go each detail change. There were changes within details. and Aliyah Medarga Ledarga aber der Aliyah by them Masse von Refidim zum Har Sinai. So now the Rebbe is going to explain what was the big change of the Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Right? We already mentioned that we had each day was a journey, but now somehow Rosh Chodesh Sivan, then we become exhausted. So it must mean that the change that we had on that day of Rosh Chodesh Sivan was a more exhausting, was a larger change. Why? Because that day was a more paradigm shift. It was a Shinu Ikri. Sie haben durchgemacht am Merache Gott und Beruchnis und es alle geworden beein Aroich zu Lichis Valias von die Tag Farden. Right? It was completely not connected to, it was completely on a different level. His moving as das ist verbunden mit Grace Hashem. So if it's not really based on the work beforehand, it was completely on a different level. So then it would make sense that the how strenuous it was to change, because it was such a drastic change. So Gimel, the Arois Geteiltkeit von dem Masse giben Arois Chazal b'Mamorim Hanal Pasav Yichud Sham Yisrael. So Chazal explained what was really going on that day. What happened that day of Har Sinai? When we got to Har Sinai, we were as one person with one heart. But all the other encampments was not on one. We were not on one page, and we were actually with arguments. By Shar Kol Hachanis, what was going on all the other encampments? We weren't getting along. Dafka by Der Chaniya Neged Ahor, gestanden in a Achtos Gemura. We were completely one, as if we were one person with one heart. Via Shleimar. So the Rebbe says that it's possible to say that Pirush from Shar Kol Hachanis Meterumas Machlekes. Right? It's not just is nit chas v'sholem in Pashut and Zin. It's not a matter of fact. It's not just like in the most simple way of looking at it. As by Al Chanias is by they given machlekes in Yanim Gashim is bezat. That we were arguing about physical physical differences, like just not getting along for petty stuff. And it could have even been, or it was actually a argument for in how to get close to Hashem. For the way Hashem created us, in our nature is in Shavis. We don't have the same thinking. Yeah, I guess we don't think alike. It's more than that. Okay. Well, in Torah Atzma, not just in the way we are created in our nature, even in Torah itself, it's not just that there's different opinions in Torah, but even Torah itself was given in a way that there's so many different theories from one way and the other. There's 49 ways to say that something is tahir and 49 ways to say something is tummy. And in Torah itself, with all these machlekes, and all of these are just as easily Torah is Hashem's actual word. Is apizeh moving as mitzada tava dekdusha v'seder yona beruchnis. So it only makes sense the Zayin shar kol achanias given min machlekes l'shem shamayim. So right, so what was going on those days coming up to Rosh Chodesh when the Yidden were getting close to Matan Torah, to accepting the Torah and working on themselves. So now we need to try to figure out how to do that. So there's obviously going to be differences of opinion. So it's not going to be everyone thinking alike, because we really care about it. And it makes sense that everyone would use their own theory, their own opinions to come up with the correct idea. But it would make sense that there would be machlekes in such an instance. But what happens when the Yidden come to Har Sinai? By the Yidden abgetan achidush ikri. There was something abnormal, something not normal, something not natural. as a Zayin by Zay, Bottle geworden, alle Likkutei Sichos, we completely nullified, we negated all our differences of opinion. Und sie seien eine Sache geworden, ki ish echad und noch mehr belev echad, not just with as one person, but even with one heart. That nit nor ki ish echad mit an achdus was any bussers and say alle ki ish echad benegel lasiya b'chulu. It's not just that we were acting as one. As alle Yidden seien maskem und machle bachot achas benegel lasiya b'chulu. Like as if we were going to come up with the realization that okay, we should all do the same thing, but in action. Now, oich believe echad, even in our heart, on actus gemura oich der leiv regashadim, that we felt the same. We felt as one. Moving so this was a lot of it was an exhausting work. Gestadlos wie Gio Yeruchnis zu der Griechen at the Achtus. To get to this level of oneness, was is a gor weiter mahalach beruchnis zum Vater sein jede Tnu von Machlekes, euch Machlekes in same Shammai, but viel beliebe belvad. To get to this level of oneness, of being on the same page, even in our opinions and even in our heart, hat gemusst peil sein auf die eine große Ausgemattetkeit. We must have been so exhausted. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu realized that okay, they're so exhausted, so we're not going to tell them anything. So now, so far, we answered the question, but the Rebbe is going to go even deeper to see that it wasn't like it wasn't a technicality that there was no way of doing anything at that time, but the Rebbe is going to explain that there was even a point to this whole point. This was even itself, this being exhausted was also part of the work to get close to Matan Torah. It's not like we took off a day of getting ready for Torah, for receiving the Torah. So, Atifra Bir Yashleimer. So even a more deep answer and explanation. So Fulsher de Urcha, what does this mean of being exhausted from the journey? Is nit nor an ihnen von Chesarin. Also es hat Chlishus von Jeden haben sie sich nicht gekannt vernehmen mit der Achonis zu Kabbalas Torah. It's not just that it was an issue that we couldn't do anything on that day because we were so exhausted. Nor Binyani zeh adrabe, it was the other Fulsher de Urcha. Da is a mile of alibim matzovim shal Yisrael. It was even a greater thing. It could even be said, possibly, that the Rebbe said that it's possible to even say that this was even higher and greater than the work that was done as a hachana for in the later days. So first of all, we should understand these things. As is English shire dem richuk ha'arech zwischen Moshe Rabbeinu und den Pashup Pshutim Shabi Yisrael. Und das sagt man, wie ich in Shabi Yisrael, als alle Jeden von Moshe Rabbeinu bis a Pashup Shabi Pshutim seine Sache geworden, beachtus gemur beleva hat Pshita nicht beifert mit der Noshim Mumada Chas v'Shalom nor mit achtus amitis. So it's self-understood that we can't even quantify the difference in levels between Moshe Rabbeinu and the most simple of Yidden. Now, all these levels were all there at the foot of Har Sinai. And now we're going to go and say that all these Yidden became one. They were completely on the same page, feeling the same thing. And for sure, it wasn't just by rote. It wasn't like it was just second nature for them. But it was a real oneness, a real Achdus. Is der full moving as by Yidden is voran the Kudush believe in welcher es gleichen sich ois kishachar belevachat. So it must be that that on some level, if we dig deep to that level, then we will actually be on the same level. Der Gott ist mit dem Pascha und in dem ist bestanden der Uftu von welchen schon Israel Negedahar, ständig Negedahar, auf zu sein, Kibbel Terem Sinai, ist bei seiner Skala gewonnen, die Nekudische belebt, was gleich sie euch alle wie einer, in der besteht der Ikrach von der zu Kabbalah Satira. So now we could see that what was happening that day when the Yidden came to the place where the Yidden will be receiving the Torah, that was the time that we tapped into the part of us that are all on this it's the point, the most essence of our heart, the that on that level there is no difference between one and the other, and getting to the tapping into that level was the main hachana to receiving the Torah. So hey, that's bar in depth. So let's see. That was the Nekudas Abiyut. That was Behekdim. So now we'll give Spara will explain. The Rebbe will explain. The Rebbe mentions many times what actually was unique about Matan Torah. The Lechera, Limna Torah is doch given euch in the Vedic Torah is far Matan Torah. We already had learning Torah beforehand. The Ladugma Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever, the Abba Shalom the Kol Torah Kula, actually Nitna, the Shem Ve'ever had a yeshiva. And the Avos learned Torah, the entire Torah. Valderch Sebnei Machrim Lefin Matan Torah. Right? The B is as Loi Pasko Yeshiva. Loi Pasuk means it never ceased, meaning that the Yidden in Mitzrayim sat and learned constantly. It never stopped. In Vos Pashteit, der Chidush Matan Torah, right? You would think that Matan Torah, what was unique about Matan Torah was that we got the Torah, so now we're going to learn Torah. But we already see from Mamar Chazal that there was learning Torah and it was constant, even in Mitzrayim when it's Barad. So what's the explanation? As der Uftu Bashteit, and then was damals is given Matan Torah. It was actually given. Nosan lanu is Torah, say Hashem gave it. BZ is gegeben geworden von dem Neisen Torah. Hashem gave us the Torah. If name about the Torah hat man genommen Torah, we took the Torah. Mit und Leut dem eigenem Koyach hasechel v'abitul. We with our own strength, with our own capacity and capabilities. That's what was the catalyst for having the Torah. The Shasban the Torah, der Eibishter gegeben Torah, like in Eifen v'koyach hanesin shaloi. But because it was Hashem that gave the Torah by Matan Torah, so it was with His own power and His own giving. By Matan Torah is given Vaydaber Elikim as called out from Ela Lemar. Lemar dem Vaydaber Elikim Valderich said there noch. By which I've been learned it was all from Hashem. Und das ist gewesen nicht an einmalige Sache. And besides, this wasn't just a happenstance of one time. Nor beim Geben der Torah hat der Eibishter Kaviochel sich reingegeben in der Torah. He, so to speak, gave himself into the Torah. He went into the Torah. Kapirush I do b'maimer Chazal that anon nafshi, I put myself into the words. Azoi niksavis yovis. Azoi as b'shas a yid learn Torah be'iza b'cholzman she at any time that the yid learns Torah, that resigned back domas hamira v'abrocha that nosan lanu as Torah. Oisi atem like him. We are taking him. And thus is the Chidush, page 12. And thus, what is it called? Page 12, technically page 6. Okay. And thus is the Chidush von Ata Niglesa, Hulu Mata Torah, that Hashem revealed himself. As is nit nor zu gekommen aus der Valley Legabe Lefnei Matan Torah. It wasn't just an adding to what was before. Nor hat sich aufgetan a Chidush. Was a shaloi berach klar, was completely on a different level. If name Matan Torah when Limunat Torah is given mitzadem eigenem koyach seichel v'chulu, right? Person was able to grasp whatever he was able to grasp. is moving as man hat genommen von Teure nor as I feel wie viel der Limit is bekoyach zum Masig sein von Chachmasse Shal Kadosh Baruch Hu. Right, we're humans, we're we only have the human capacity to think. So obviously, it would just be on a human level. Mashenken noch Matan Torah, but after Matan Torah is der Limit Torah ba'ofen, it's in a way as men verbindet sich durch dem mit dem Neusen Torah Atme. We are actually binding ourselves to the giver of the Torah himself. Was hat allein sich hereingegeben mit Terase, because he put himself into his Torah. So what? Und das verbunden mit Vayichan Sham Yisrael Kishacha B'Leibachat. Right. So now getting back to what was going on. So after we know what's special about Matan Torah, um, um, and how much it's on a completely different level from what was happening beforehand. So now we could see what's happening on the day of Rosh Chodesh Sivan, and why it had to be that that we were completely silent on that day. What was happening? Und das verbunden mit ihren Shom Yisrael Kishachot B'Leibachat. Die Chalukim bei dem mit der Torah zwischen ein Jid und der zweiten Yidin bis zum Chiluk Achi Godel zwischen Moshe Rabbeinu und Apostel Shevet Pshutim, the different levels of learning Torah, even to the greatest of differences between, let's say, Moshe Rabbeinu and the most simple of Yidden. It's within understanding the Torah. Was ein Yid, but mitzad koiches nafshay, someone has the capability, aggressora, a greater one, and a higher understanding and grasping in Torah. Vidas hatat zweiter Yid, more than another person. Visachiluk ben aroich. Until, yes, it's even possible that they're not even comparable one to the other, one person to the other. Aber das was a Yid verbindet sich durch limna Torah, but when a Yid binds himself, connects himself through learning Torah, as kulachad mit den Torah, he is completely one with the giver of the Torah. As das vadem gadol shebek delam under katan shebek tanim. This is in the same way to the greatest of the greats and the lowest of the low. Der oisi atem, like him getting him, is by on ish pashut was learned mikra. He's just learning the words themselves of the pashut pshat of afilu ben versteht nit was learned, even when he doesn't understand. Was makdim Zayin as v'nasan terase, right? In it's a halachic issue, right? That even if you don't understand, you still have to say v'nasan lanu as terase. And now is dos der zelber oisi. It's the same him. It's the same you. Was by them lamdid godel, this great genius, was hat gor tifer in Torah, and he understands. He is a more deep level of understanding Torah, and is in them mecharish chedushim amitim, and he is actually even coming up with new chedushim of Torah, true chedushim. The ilu von oise atem leichim wird nit greich durch eigene koiches, but the truth is, gaining a connection to Hashem through learning Torah, this is not through the person's own capabilities. Your own, our own capabilities. It's really just coming from Hashem. This constant giving of that Hashem gives us the Torah, that is the way that we connect to Hashem through Torah. It's really Hashem, it's through Hashem's koiches, not through our own koiches. So therefore, that shows that there's no difference between one Yid and the other on this level with regards to learning Torah. Und der Inyan is verbunden mit Leif von Yidin, but the truth is, this has to do with the heart of a Yid. And the most intrinsic level of the person's heart, of the Yidin's heart, is Meir Yechidush Benefesh. It shines the essential connection that a Yid has to Hashem. Which is completely on a different plane from the Yid's understanding and even his conscious, his his Tamadas. Was in der Nikud is by jeden Yid in seiner Amunah. His Amunah is over there, is on that level, is off is that no, it's in there. In Oiberstein Lamaila Matamadas, right? It's anyways Lamaila Matamadas. His Amunah is not on the level of just understanding. It's completely higher. It's Lamaila Matamadas. Und das meint wäre Sham Yisrael. So that's why when the Yidden come to Har Sinai, it's on everyone's on the same level. So now we need to receive the Torah, das bei Yidden ausgerufen, die es Galus von Seir Pnimis und Nekudas Alef. So we tapped in, the Yidden tapped in to this level of their Yiddishkeit, of being of what is by Ali Yidden B'Shava, which is right their Jewishness. So being a Jew is all Jews are on the same Jew, the same Jewness of one Jew is in the other Jew. All on the same B'Shava. Und der Gilui an der Kodesh Belev hat sie gemacht Farakli zu der Göttlichkeit von Torah. And tapping into that level, that is a keli to receive the godliness of Torah. Zum Vaydaber Elikim, bis es wird leimoir. Okay, Zayin. Aber der Achon von Sham Yisrael Belev Echad is nor the erste Darge in der Achon zum Torah. Right, so we would think that, okay, after Rish Chodesh Sivan, now we could get the Torah. We already tapped into that level, so great, so give me the Torah. But no, the Rebbe says there's still more work to do. After Rish Chodesh Sivan, there's a few days left till Matan Torah. What do we have to do? Is nor the erste Darge in der Achona zum Matan Torah. Durch der Meile Nifla von Vittelova Achdus wird man akli zu Teure. Aber der Tachlis von Teure ist, als man soll sie lernen, mit Havana Vasaga. Und der Pfarr hat sich behitten gefordert, der ganze Seder von Achonis zu Matan Teure. So yes, we need to be on the same page. We need to happen to being a Jew, which is just negating our opinions and our uniqueness as a single person. But then we have to actually learn the Torah. It's not just enough to tap into that level. We have to actually learn it with our own brains, with our own. We have to come up with our own opinions in Torah, and that's part of learning Torah. And all of that, because of all that, we need to have afterwards an actual seder, a schedule of the next few days of how to actually get back to using our own powers, our own koiches. Die Kavona von Matan Torah is as der Odom soll sich vereinigen mit Torah. The reason, what's the point? What's the reason we got the Torah is in order to become one with the Torah. Bis also waren sein Chayes und Metzias, till it's actually our actual life. Und der Rebbe muss Torah genommen werden euch durch limud hasoga v'havonas haseichel. It has to take over our whole life. So obviously it has to take over our thought also. B'shas man versteht an in the seichel. So what happens when we grasp something, right? When we say that we understand something, we're going to use the word grasp. Grasp is usually something like grasping with your hand. And grasping means that it's encompassed by your hand. That's like what it means that you grasp it. So what is grasping? It becomes part It becomes part of you. B'shas man versteht an ihnen Beseichel, wird der Muskel nicht bis in der Beseichel Adam, bis es wird ein Teil von seinem Metzies. Like we see by Mosin, al derech wie der Mosin von Lechem was wird da mit Basar Kibsari. When we eat, the whatever we eat becomes our actual flesh and blood. So too when we grasp something, when we think about something, and then we understand it, we actually it actually becomes part of us. Kanya actually says that it's a yichud nifla. It's a extraordinary oneness. Zwischen und von dem Muskel mit dem Muskel. Chof-Tes, so it comes out from this. As durch Hasogas HaTorah nimmt Yid rein und wird nis achid und nis yachid mit dem Dvar Havaya. Was ist Heche von Olam legamri? Und das seine gewähnt die zwei Sugyachone von jeden Zagwalas HaTorah. So what was happening? So there were two types of achonis. So the erste achone zum HaTorah is kanal v'chon shom Yisrael keregi shechad beleivcha, which is tachlis habitul, pushing ourselves aside of our differences that we had the day before. Was poilt as Yali Yidden's all Zayin kishachad beleivcha, that we're all on one page. The Klal Yisrael from Klal Yisrael ke'echad, that we're all Jews. Aber von Sheni Besivon is his Chomashel is Asiki Mohem in Kabbalah Satira. How do we receive the Torah? Was damit werden gemeint in eine Hachona welche tun oif as the Metzius Adam. Nicht nur mit Tzad Yechidush aber Pnim Salev, not just our like innate existence, innate Jewishness, not just that, but even what we are actually doing and feeling and thinking. Nicht nur mit Tzad Yechidush aber Pnim Salev soll sein Masim Veroi uklikibel zu Kabbalah Satira. Vatem Tioli Mamlachas Kenem, mit das Hagbolo Prisha Chulu, was they haben hier in Chelek gemacht Chulu. Our entire beings need to be on that level. Und die Diachon is seinen Verancheluken zwischen Yidi, yes, and on these Achon is, yes, each person is different. When we get into our personalities, obviously each personality will be a little different. Yeah, they're like Zayman Degen and Vedis Hashem. When we get to actual Kabbalah Satira, there were differences between there was actually separations. Moshe Mechitza La'atzmai, right? Moshe was on a different part of the har of the har of Vayalim, but the truth is that what was happening at Matan Torah is Gefen Parchanish Masan. Everyone, even though there were differences in levels of holiness, but still, when it got to the giving of the Torah, the actual Aser Sadibres, everyone lost their neshamas. Their neshamas left their bodies. And I'll call Dibur of a Dibur, not just the okay, by each Dibur. Maybe it means by Moshe Rabbeinu also. Okay, no, that can't be. Thought it was just the first. Okay. Genau, 34. That's what it says. It'll explain. Okay. So now it comes the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu didn't tell them even one word because of how exhausted we were because of our journey. What was the urchot? The halicha ruchnis. It was a spiritual journey. As alle Yidden von Moshe Rabbeinu bis dem Pascha B'Shutra Yisrael soll nicht werden is verbunden mit Chulsha. It's about being exhausting. L'mal Yusa. What does it mean exhausting? Achlisha so bittul in Yidden. When someone when someone stops being active, when someone is like calm and things like that, it's more negating the person's capabilities, or the person isn't not running around, things like that. So that's kind of like a bittul. It's a bittul in Yidden. So that's what was the avoida of that day. The avoida of that day was the bittul. was to get to the level where there is no difference between one Yid or the other, because we had to first get to the level that we are actual Yidden. And if we're actual Yidden, so then there will be no changes because each one are just as equal Yidden as the other. And it was completely no words. Is nit verbunden mit Amira. It's complete. It has nothing to do with words. It has nothing to do with talking. Nor does is an von Loyamar. It's about shtiko bittel. It's about holding ourselves back from talking, about being quiet. And after the Gericht mittel mitzad welche in all jenen seine Kirche beleben hat. So what happens afterwards? But es sich als Jiden sollen sich herabtragen von dem Bittel Atzum. So now we have to get out of that level und vernehmen sich mit die anderen Janiachon. And now we have to delve into the other ways that we are getting close to Torah. Weil dafke durch dem wird sich durch der Tachlis von Torah, because when we start using our own capabilities and our own thoughts and our own our own capabilities, so that is what actually causes the yichud nifla zusammen mit oisi atem like him. So when we actually think after, when we already negated our own selves, which is the Rosh Chodesh Sivan, then we work on starting to use our talents and our capabilities till we get to receiving the Torah, when we actually understand Torah to the greatest, to the most that we were able to, and then that causes a extraordinary oneness with Hashem Himself.